Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
The new Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. Introducing the all-new Apple Watch Series 10, now available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generation, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Hey there, Duke fans. It is episode 658 of the DBR podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup. I'm Jason Evans, here for your listening enjoyment alongside my buddy, Donald Wine. Donald, how you doing? Let's be honest. We're recording this on Monday morning, 11:45 or so. Donald has just pulled out a gold trophy.
My old friend.
Yeah.
It's my old friend, the Stats Game trophy.
Very nice.
Why I'm holding it today. I guess it's time to defend my title here.
Exactly. I was going to say, so we're recording this on Monday. This probably won't hit your feed till Tuesday or maybe Wednesday. So if there's some big news, forgive us if it's not included here. We're not here to talk about news. We're here to talk about the Stats Game, our annual preview of the season, and the guru, the leader of the Stats Game, the man who always shepherds us through this wilderness, Sam Klein is joining us. Sam,
Woo!
Up, guys. Great to see you.
Yeah.
I guess this is not the live show, so we're not. No one else is seeing me, but I can assure you that I'm here, and that the guys are here, and they more or less look the same as how I recall. So yeah, it's great to be back. I have a couple logistical questions about the program.
Sure. Yeah.
Since I was last year, so I'm a few episodes behind on listening, so I apologize for that. You guys are in my feed the same way that many of my favorite shows are, which is I am perpetually like a few weeks behind on listening, which is extremely annoying. But I just haven't figured out how to call my podcast interests to meet the time available for listening. But that's neither here nor there. So I think that both of you are iPhones. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, both of you are iPhones. So I'm an Android. I'm fairly stubborn about it, and I have this. I don't know how bootleg it is, but the app I use for podcast listening is called Podcast Addict, and I would like to issue a call to the listeners. It basically clones Apple Music's podcast feed. I've been using it for many years because, like, before Spotify and everybody else had all the and Google had all the podcasts, Apple was the most reliable place to get podcast feeds from. But not being an Android, I didn't have access to it, so I use this other app to download shows. I have no idea how popular it is, but if there's anyone out there who listens to the show, uses Podcast Addict, and can tell me how you've got around the fact that for some reason the DBR feed stopped working at the end of 2023. It for some reason was also I got a new phone a couple weeks ago. My old phone had all the episodes. I've been I have every episode in my queue. For reference, I have about 200 back cataloged episodes of various podcasts sitting in my playlist. It's a horrible way to live.
That's a lot.
Very disorganized. Yeah, it's really bad. So I had all the recent DBRs in my feed. I got a new phone. For whatever reason, the episodes that were in my Podcast Addict backlog didn't transfer over, so I had to resubscribe to all the shows that I like, which was also annoying. And somehow the DBR feed that shows up on my Podcast Addict app now ends in 2023. The last episode is us recapping some Georgia Tech game or something. And
really,
so I can't figure out how to get all the recent episodes onto my phone. So if anyone out there
is
uses
it in March? Is it March 2023? Because that would explain a lot. Because that was when we got dropped, but we had to move to
But then
our new
why
network.
can't I find Duke Basketball Roundup you know what? If anyone uses Podcast Addict and knows how to get around this, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start listening to you guys on Spotify. It's going to throw off everything. So I'm pretty upset. I'm coming in here today fired up about the state of multimedia. And what else before we begin the stats game? Duke is bowl eligible. That's great. Let me give you my brief thoughts on the football season so far. Shocked that Malik Murphy's still the starter. Doesn't make any sense. But otherwise, thrilled with Duke being bowl eligible somehow after 7 games of the season. And I was down at Duke a few weeks ago for the UNC game, which was awesome. So thrilled that I made that decision. I was down in Raleigh for the International Bluegrass Music Association week. And I also had a work trip there, so I sort of had multiple excuses to be at Duke. All my bluegrass friends didn't understand why I was going all the way to Durham for the day for a football game. And the Duke folks that I ran into that day didn't understand why I was in town for a music festival as my primary destination when there was a Duke Carolina football game. These are two communities that somehow do not talk to each other. So it was great to be there. And what else on the Duke front? Oh, on the football front, obviously rooting for I'm obviously rooting primarily for Duke to get into the playoff, which I'd say we still have an outside chance at, right?
No.
A bunch of ACC teams have to lose so that we can make the ACC title game, but come on. No, we're saying zero chance.
Two losses? I don't think. Yeah, I mean, with our
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you win the conference. That's what he's talking about. Do we have an outside chance to win the conference? We have an outside chance, but it's very outside.
All right, so let's assume that Duke doesn't have a chance to make the playoff anymore. I'm clearly rooting for Duke to get into one of the Northeast Bowl games, so that the players can be cold, but I can attend. That would be great. And and the ACC schedule came out for men's basketball. So I've obviously got the Boston College game on my calendar. I checked the other day to compare prices. Buying a season ticket for Boston College was going to be about $50 more than buying a Duke BC ticket on the secondary market. So I almost pulled the trigger, except there was only one season ticket left, and I would have rather gone with multiple people. So I'm going to go for the secondary market approach. But I almost pulled a Alabama football fans circa 2010 move. On BC basketball. So
the other option is if you agree to appear on the podcast, you can probably get a press pass and sit on press rep.
Hold your thought on that, because I think we'll get to a category here that may be relevant to that discussion, in which I will entertain that possibility. So
I love the fact that Sam hasn't been on, regularly in many, many months now. We haven't had him even as a guest in a while, and dude just riffed for a solid 10 minutes.
Turns out, still
he had some things to say. This is great.
I know. Well, the problem is I don't share any of my opinions on the internet anymore.
You're always welcome back anytime you want.
I know. It's just a matter of timing and everything. But anything that I can. Let's see. Do I have any questions for you guys before we begin? First of all,
wait. Hold on. This is always a long episode. The Stats Game's a long episode. You're killing me, man. You're killing me.
This is my fault for not showing up, but here we go. How did Duke get so many guys in the transfer portal? It seems like there's a lot of new guys.
We got 4.
Yeah, let's just see. Is that a lot? It was a
not
terrible.
A lot. It's not a little.
Where have you been? This is a question for May. This is a question for 5 months.
I know, but we haven't talked, and I can just say it was a terrible year to stop sort of being part of Duke media, because I feel like the volume of like roster change is now way higher than it is in years past.
Yeah.
And so previously I would keep up with it more readily, and now I don't, because I'm not obligated to. And even though I'll read the news articles and stuff, but there's a difference between like, oh, this was the news this week, and then actually like adding it to my like mental roster of actually who's playing at Duke this year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, is it confusing. And I don't know. Like I'm I like that the players make money and stuff, but man, is it so much harder to follow everything nowadays? Who are these guys?
Dude, welcome to modern college basketball. I mean, the fact that we have two returnees like puts us well ahead of half the teams in the conference.
I know. It's like I don't. Let me say I was all in favor of all of these changes at a conceptual level, and now that they've happened, I don't find them fun at all. So I don't.
Wait, imagine if you were a Louisville fan. They have 0 players back.
Oh, being a Louisville
or Kentucky
fan the last
or
couple
Arkansas
years is pretty much the worst thing. But our football team is good. Saturday's debacle somewhat aside, we don't have to.
We're not talking about that anymore.
We don't have to keep going on that. But anything else? Yes.
I would just say on getting to your NIL thing. Just imagine this: Jaden Quaintance was supposed to play Duke this year, and he did, just for a different team than we thought he would, because he was supposed to be at Kentucky.
Yeah,
he played last night for Arizona State. So there you go.
Also, one other complaint I would like to issue, just while I'm here.
Sure.
I don't like this. I don't like this preseason, quote unquote, preseason games against real teams thing. I think Duke should be getting credit for beating Arizona State last night.
Oh yeah.
And because we haven't talked about this on the program yet. No one has talked about this on the program yet. Duke beat the piss out of Arizona State last night in Cameron Indoor Stadium.
We had a recap last night where
your podcast feed is behind, Sam.
Oh yeah. Shoot. Oh, maybe I should refresh everything.
Duke, wait, you think we didn't recap that game yet?
I don't know.
It was a lot of fun too.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. On the baseball show, we're recording this on October 28th. The baseball podcast that I listened to, we're just wrapping up the regular season. So
wow. Yeah,
we're about to be
things have happened
in the World Series in real life, and I don't know who's making the playoffs yet. So it's a strange reality to be living in. But man, Duke beat the piss out of Arizona State last night. But at the end of the year, that's not going to matter, and I don't like that. I think Duke should get credit for that.
I mean, I hear you, but at the same time, I like that we are getting a chance to see these more competitive games during the preseason. I mean, otherwise, no offense to Lincoln, and Duke frankly beat Arizona State as bad as they beat Lincoln.
Duke took offense to Lincoln even showing up.
I don't know, because I haven't listened, obviously. Did you talk about the fact that the final scores of those games were basically the same?
Yeah. Yes. No, but the point I was going to make was you don't get a sense of the team in the same way when you play a team, one of these D2, D3 teams that can't really, athletically compete. The impressive thing about the victory over Arizona State is a legit power conference team with athletes and players who have pro aspirations and who can compete at this level. And Duke beat them by 50 plus points. So,
and I'm thrilled about that. And it was great to just be watching Duke playing a laugher against a real team. But it's a bummer that we don't get to take credit for it. So anyway,
our efficiency rankings would be sailing higher.
Would be awesome. Yeah.
And that's okay. I think this won't be the only time that Duke beats a power conference team by 50 points.
Okay. So
on that
note, before we get started, anything else I can clear up for you guys about anything at all? Just anything that's on your mind before we just launch straight into stats game? Because I'll do it.
No, we're so far behind, man. The audience doesn't want hour-and-a-half episodes. Come on.
All right. Is that what they're telling you? Is that the latest in podcast knowledge? All right. Let's get to the stats game. So for those who've never been on this before, never heard the stats game episode. Hi, I'm Sam Klein. I used to live here, and the object of the stats game is a way for us to preview the season, while in sort of a fun and different way, because there's plenty of places that you can just read about who does Duke have this year and how good are they going to be. We're going to do that in the form of a series of questions where we try to guess the best and brightest of Duke for this season in a series of categories. It's a fun game. At the end of the season, we'll recap the performance, and the winner will get to hang on to the trophy that esteemed DBR emeritus Mike Hemrick gave to us last year that Donald currently has. It's a very beautiful trophy. It's got the golden microphone on it. So we're all vying.
I will say that it only has my name on it, and I need to get it updated with the other winners. But for now, it looks good just having my name on it. I'd like to keep that. So
Donald's going to do his best to defend his legacy here, and Jason and I are going to do the best to beat him off of his throne by force or by thought, or by random guess. So let's get straight into the categories. We're going to go through a few categories that we do every year, and then we have a few that change every year, which is the minimal amount of work that I now have to do to put this together, other than physically typing it into a Google spreadsheet. So let's start right at the top. Points per game, and if you'll recall from prior years, we'll do a handful of these categories where we guess the team leaders in a series of statistical areas. If we have multiple people guessing the same players, then we do have to guess the exact number for tiebreaker reasons, which we will get into, I am sure, shortly. And
by the way, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. Usually we have a lot of categories where we need tiebreakers, and I don't think we will. I think this year, this is as balanced a Duke team as I can recall in a long time in terms of who's going to lead us in various categories. I'm just going to, in fact, I'll predict right now, there may be only one or two categories at the most where all three of us have the same answer.
Let's do one where I do think we're going to have the same answer. And Jason, I'm going to let you go first on the picks here. So who is going to lead Duke this year in points per game?
I mean, I think you can make a really good case for either Foss, Caleb Foster, or Cooper Flagg, but I'm going to go with Con Knipple.
Okay. So you're just a field right from the beginning.
Yeah. And
fantastic.
And I'll tell you that I think they're really quick. I think different guys have different roles in this team, and there are a lot of guys who have a lot of roles. Like Cooper Flagg has like 10 different roles that he plays. But I think Con Knipple, more than anyone else, his role is to score, and so that's why I think he will lead the team in scoring.
Donald, who have you got?
I battle between Con Knipple and Cooper Flagg. I went with Cooper Flagg.
I also went with Cooper Flagg, and I am impressed that Jason went afield here. I don't know that I'm obviously not rooting for Jason to win, but I like the confidence. All right, let's move to rebounds per game. Donald, do you think this is another category where we are going to have a contest?
I'm not sure. I went with Kamen Malawach. I think he's going to lead the team in rebounding.
Jason, who have you got?
Yeah, I've also got Kamen Malawach. This is one of the categories where I think all three of us will have the same thing. And in fact, I'll go so far as to say I think this category won't be close. I think he'll be at least 2 rebounds clear of anyone else on the team.
I'm taking Cooper Flagg.
Love it.
I would also like to remind the listeners that I am way behind, not necessarily on like desktop research, but just on time spent on knowing what's going on with this Duke team. So my answers are likely to be worst here, especially in a year where there's so much turnover. But I love that Malawach got to play on the South Sudanese Olympic team. Obviously a great experience, and very impressed generally with his skill set, and very excited to see him in a Duke uniform. Wait, I have one more. It's not a complaint, but I have one more interjection, Jason, if you'll allow.
Please.
Thrilled. As bad as confusing as college basketball is now, and as weird as the whole exhibition games against real teams thing is, thrilled that they've expanded the set of potential numbers that players can wear now.
Yes.
So we've got all the Duke players wearing number 7 and number 9 and all this stuff. I think that's great. It made no sense before. So welcome to whatever, like 1955 college basketball in that regard. Let's move to one where I almost certainly agree with Jason that there won't be any contest here. Blocks per game. I've got Kamen Malawach. Jason, who do you have?
Donald should be going next, but I'll go next and say I also have Kamen Malawach.
Donald.
I got Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be the closest of the categories.
Love this. You know what? I want to change one of the categories that's coming up, but I'll get to it in a second, and it's going to be fair because no one will have prepped for it. Assists per game. We're going to go back to the top. Jason, who do you have leading the team in assists per game this season?
I think this is the hardest of the major stat
Yeah.
categories. That I seriously considered 4 different guys, but I considered Con Knipple for this because I think he really is a crafty passer, and I think no one's going to have I think Duke's going to have a ton of assists, but not from any one guy. I eventually went with Tyrese Proctor, but I mean, I came this close to saying Cooper Flagg, and I want to note that I've still not picked Cooper Flagg for a single category. I'm going Tyrese Proctor.
But the fact that he's Duke's preseason All-American, and very clearly the best player on the team. Donald, who do you have leading the team in assists this year?
Because of the usage rate that I expect him to have, Cooper Flagg is who I picked.
It's a good pick, Donald. I don't disagree.
I think it makes great sense, and I'm still taking Tyrese Proctor. The thing that makes me most nervous about this pick is that there are a lot of ways the season can go, and I think we'll get into some of this scenario stuff as we move along here. One of the things I'm most worried about is the Proctor confidence factor, which has been like he's had some struggles at Duke. Like his highs are high and his lows have not been super low, but you could definitely envision a period in like a month or two where Proctor has a couple games where he's not playing well and Shire sends him to the bench just to mix things up and put somebody else in, and we'll get to some guys who might get sort of spot starts for some reason. I do think Proctor's going to get a lot of the distribution time, and so where Jason, I think that your comment on Concanipple makes sense. I don't think there's enough minutes and touches for him to lead the team both in points and assists. That would be pretty amazing.
Right. That's a good point.
As much as his stock has risen over the last couple months, I don't expect that.
I would like to point out, by the way, that it was abundantly clear last night in the Arizona State game that the starting point guard is CFOS, and not a single one of us picked him to lead the team in assists.
Well, and this is sort of the same conundrum we were in last year, where Duke sort of had 4 combo guards, and I think we had the same conversation last year where it was like, who do you think is going to lead this team in assists? Roach, Proctor, Foster, or McCain? Like, take your pick.
And I think the only issue that Caleb Foster will have in that category is that the hockey assist does not count, right?
Yeah.
Like the pass before the pass does not count. So he's going to have a lot of those, I think. But in the end, the person who passes last is the only one that gets the assist.
And this is a team that makes a lot of makes the extra pass a ton. Yeah.
And has guys who are looking for extra passes, which is going to be very fun to watch.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to steals per game. This was not a category where Duke performed particularly well last year. I was going back through last year's performance. Do you guys remember that Kyle Filipowski led the team in steals per game last year?
Yes, I do.
Kind of crazy. Yeah.
That was nuts. And he was obviously a crafty defender for a big, but maybe some more of an indictment on the rest of the team that it was Filipowski. So Donald, who do you have leading Duke in steals per game this season?
I'm high on Caleb Foster to lead the team in steals. And I think it's because of the way that he's been getting to the passing lanes. He's going to have that opportunity to kind of, quote, gamble on some of these where he can go for glory. And if he misses, he knows he has a Cooper Flagg and a Kamen Malawach behind him to kind of clean things up. I also debated Malik Brown in this category because he is known for steals. I think he averaged 2 steals a game last year.
Yeah, he led the ACC,
I
think, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in the end, because of the time, the amount of minutes he's going to get relative to Malik Brown, I went with Caleb Foster.
I also took Caleb Foster. He was one of the better performers on the team last year, which again isn't saying much. The big question I think that you bring up, Donald, with some of the guys who are right now considered bench guys is how many minutes is John Shire giving to the bench, and how long is the bench going to be? And given that we've watched 2 50-60 point blowouts to start the season, we don't know yet how much that's going to compress. So I'm taking Foster under the assumption that John Shire eventually fits back into the Coach K mold that he did last year, where we'll talk about players who are considered regulars. Duke only had 7 regulars on the team last year, so it's hard to predict sort of where the minutes crunch is going to come from, but I think it comes eventually. So I'm taking Foster as well, given that I know he'll be a starter and a relied upon player.
All right, so I get to round out this category. I considered two guys very, very strongly. Neither of them are Caleb Foster.
Right.
So I have not picked Cooper Flagg for any category. I'm taking him for steals. The other guy I considered was Malik Brown. The ACC's returning steal champion. I don't know how you could not pick him, but somehow all three of us have managed to pull that off. But I think Cooper Flagg. I think teams don't realize how sneaky he is, and how much he's all over the floor and how long and quick his arms are. So that's why I'm taking Cooper Flagg. But I think it could be really close with Malik Brown. And I agree with you, Donald, that the fact that Malik Brown may not get quite the minutes that he did a year ago will play a significant impact on his number being down in this category.
The one where maybe we're picking the same guy, but let's see how it goes. Highest field goal percentage on the team. I've got Malawach being the guy in the middle. Maybe we call this the Ryan Young Award for highest field goal percentage on the team. But Jason, who do you have in this category?
Yeah, it's Kamen Malawach, and he's going to dunk a lot.
And Donald?
I went with Malik Brown.
Oh, that's a really good pick. Oh, now I'm mad at myself. That's a really good pick.
I will say this. Malik Brown, his freshman year, was 69.8% from the floor. His sophomore year, he was also 69.8% from the floor. So this year, I think is going to be him, and I think it will be very close between him and Malawach. But I think Malik Brown, again, for this one, you have to think number of shots. He's going to get enough to qualify, but he's not going to take as many shots as Malawach, and all of them are probably going to be dunks or layups.
Well,
took a three last night. He took a three last night.
Took a three, yeah. He took a three.
But that's the thing I was going to say is there's a strong correlation, or there's a strong negative correlation between the number of threes you take and how high your field goal percentage is, relatively speaking. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. Malawach isn't taking a three this year.
Oh yeah, he is.
Oh, he could.
Oh, for sure. You want to
right.
do an over? I bet Kamen Malawach. Should we make this a category? Kamen Malawach 3 pointers?
I was going to say that I wanted to change the Kamen Malawach blocks per game category, because I figured everyone was going to take him, and so we were going to have to give the guesses anyway. But then Donald put Cooper Flagg in it, but I'm still going to change it. So let's skip down to the category I had for Kamen Malawach, and instead of doing his blocks per game, let's do number of 3-pointers that he takes. And Donald,
total number?
Take this one. What?
You said total number?
Total number of 3-pointers that Kamen Malawach attempts this season. Donald, you're going to go first in this category.
Oh,
I'm going to go.
He's thinking
21.
He's going 21. Jason?
I'm saying 16.
I like this. I think this is one of those things where we'll have this confidence early in the year and then it'll fade. So I'm going low on you guys. I'm going to go with 9.
That's
Respect.
fair.
Yep. I think it's a good
yeah.
spread. Good spread.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's continue with the categories as we intended. Highest 3-point field goal percentage on this team, and I think I'm back to the top with Jason.
I think a very strong case can be made for Darren Harris if he gets enough. Is it 1 3-point field goal attempt per game?
It's half.
What we've done in the past is half of a field goal attempts per game. So if Duke plays 40 games this season, which of course they will, you have to have taken at least 23s to qualify for this category.
Yeah. So at first I was thinking Darren Harris wouldn't get there on attempts, but I'm going to go with my original pick. I'm going with Con Knipple. Con is an unbelievable shooter. So that's where I am. Con's going to lead the team in 3-point field goal percentage.
Donald, who do you have?
I considered the following players: Caleb Foster, Cooper Flagg, Isaiah Evans, Tyrese Proctor, Malik Brown, Con Knipple, Darren Harris, Kamen Malawach, Cameron Sheffield, Sion James, Mason Gillis, Neil Begovic, Stanley Borden, and Spencer Hubbard. I considered all those guys. I did not consider Patrick Ngong, but he's the only guy I didn't consider because he's the only one who I think is not going to is not capable of taking a 3. I am going with Darren
Stanley
Harris.
Borden. So you got Stanley Borden maybe shooting a 3.
Borden shooting threes?
Stanley Borden might get one. This is his senior year or his junior, whatever. I think he might get one. I think he might get an
I'm thrilled to get to walk-on's total points, which comes towards the end of the end of the category set. So who did you end up taking?
Darren Harris.
So Donald believes in Harris on a minutes basis because that's really the question here. I also went with Con Knipple. I didn't want to overthink any of these categories, and it seems like he's going to be he's going to be the 3-point shooter here. The only downside to taking him is that he's probably like if you ask like who is Duke's best 3-point shooter, it's him, which means he gets all the attention on the perimeter.
Yeah.
But there's going to be enough defensive attention spent on Flagg and the rest of this team that I don't think you can just blanket Concadipple unless you've got, 2 or 3 really, really strong perimeter defenders. So let's keep it going. I think we're on Donald now. How many players are going to lead Duke in scoring in a game? This is another one of those depth questions that is, I think, hard to forecast.
Yeah, and this one I think is a little bit difficult, but I ended up going with 5 because I think that's a very solid number. 5.
Fine. I had 6 under the assumption that anyone who starts on this, like we sort of know who the starters are going to be. I think they all get at least one shot at this, and then someone off the bench is going to do it. I just don't know who.
So I've never done something like this. I'm usually like, 5, 6, 7, whatever it may be. I'm actually going to say 4. It's crazy of me to do this, I know, but I think Con, Cooper, Caleb Foster, and probably Tyrese Proctor are the only guys that'll lead Duke in scoring. I don't think Kaman Malawach will have, I just don't think he's going to have that many games where he gets into double figures. And when he does, I just don't think he's going to lead the team in scoring. And I think that all our primary subs off the bench are going to be low usage guys. Sion James, Malik Brown, Mason Gillis, all those guys are low usage. And then Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans are not going to get the minutes. So it seems crazy, but I'm saying 4 guys lead Duke in scoring.
And I think this category is difficult because it doesn't take someone doing 5 minutes and going off, right? Any one guy can lead one game, and that counts towards this number, right? The last 2 seasons, guess who was part of that number? Jalen Blakes. So I think this is a category where you just need that one game for someone to off the bench to get hot, and they can lead the team in scoring for that one game. Adam Soothing.
Jalen Blakes, who now plays at
Stanford. And we'll start at
remember that. Are they playing at Duke this year?
What?
Is Stanford playing at Duke this year?
Yes.
They are playing at Duke. Yeah.
And he will get a big ovation from the crowd, I guarantee you.
And credit to me for remembering that Stanford is in the ACC this year.
ACC. Yeah.
That was another complaint that I had that I didn't lodge earlier. I was like flipping around college football a few weeks ago, and I genuinely had the thought, oh, that's so cool that Ohio State and Oregon are playing this weekend. Like, how bold of those programs, like how bold of Ohio State to go out west during the middle of the regular season. Totally forgot. Just like no idea that they were, I mean, I knew, but I had like a genuine brain fart about them playing in the same conference.
Sam, I'm going to say that since you left the podcast, you've become someone who has a life. Congrats.
It's not even like I follow college sports. Like I know what's going on, more or less. And I still this year I finally I've somewhat given up on remembering who's in every conference. I think it also, there was a game, Michigan and Texas played a football game this year, right, Donald? Unfortunately
yes,
for you. And that game came on and I had a moment where I was like, this could be a conference game. I don't know if it is. Like maybe.
Yeah, you're right.
We've been talking about Texas moving homes for a long time, and they finally did it. But I was like, is Texas in the Big Ten? Maybe, could be. I'm sure that was in the discussion set sometime in the last 10 years. Guys, let's take a break. I've gone on a bit too long here. We have plenty more categories to go, but we'll take a sponsor break. Is there something I'm supposed to say, Jason, when we throw it to a sponsor break?
You say we'll be back.
We'll be right back. We are back, and we are continuing with the stats game. So let me just keep right on rolling where we left off here. Jason, you are up next on this category. I need you to tell me how many unique starting lineups John Shire is going to roll out this year.
I mean, I kind of hate some of these categories where I'm just like, well, am I projecting injuries right now? Because that to me that could be.
I always try not to think about this in injury terms and more in performance and guys terms, but obviously it happens.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sort of projecting injuries here. I get a sense. I think that maybe John Shire knows his starters. It's possible that we get, like a Sion James subbing in for a Tyrese Proctor or a Caleb Foster if there's a little bit of a funk happening with one of those guys. I'm going to go with four different starting lineups. And again, I think that is primarily going to be a function of guys getting injured. And I hope that I'm wrong. And I hope that the answer is 0 or 1. I guess 1 would be, the lowest number it could be.
Donald, who do you have?
I went with 5. I mean, the idea is that any one of the starting 5 changes from the very first one of the season, that becomes a unique one. And I think we will have a couple of changes early in the year, mainly because I think John Shire is going to try and figure out his combinations and figure out what works. He may have his starting 5, but there might be opportunities for him to say, okay, let's throw this guy in here and see what we have here. Or if a guy comes on later in the year, that can always change. So I do think he'll find a 5 that he'll stick with, but I think in the early beginning, we'll get 5 different unique starting lineups.
Also went with 5, mainly because, obviously in the front court, Duke's got a fairly clear delineation of who the top guys are. I feel like in the backcourt, there are more pieces that Shire can play with, and there's a chance that some combination of them turn into the best ones, even though at the beginning of the season, it seems clear who those top players are on the perimeter. So I've also got 5 because I think there will be a little bit of experimentation, and I've given myself the space for the injuries. Next category. How many double doubles is Cooper Flagg going to have this year, Donald?
I went with 3. I don't know that he's going to get a bunch of 10 rebound games. He might get close. I think the double doubles might come in assists, or maybe blocks. If it was blocks, that'd be fun. But I think really it's going to be assists.
10 assist games are very hard to come by in college basketball.
He's in the exhibition season, he already had a 6-1, which is still pretty high. And it felt like again, with the hockey assist, he could have had a lot more.
I went with 12. I think that there's, like you said, there's more potential for it. And the question that I have here on this is in how many games is Cooper Flagg going to have to, it's not that he won't earn 35 minutes a game. He clearly, if Duke is playing its best lineup all the time, he should be playing 40 minutes a game. The question is, how many times is he actually going to play 35 minutes a game? Because John Shire will leave him in longer than he needs to be, and he will rack up more stats by being out there.
I went with 4. I think Cooper Flagg's going to be playing on the perimeter, more than maybe we would have expected a couple months ago. And I also think, and I really saw this in the Arizona State game, Duke's playing great defense. We're keeping guys out of the middle. Teams are taking jump shots. And when they take those jump shots, Common Malawach is the only guy under there to grab a rebound. Everyone else has got, putting a body on a guy or going the other direction. And I just don't think Cooper Flagg's going to get many of those sort of junk, uncontested rebounds. Those are all going to go to Malawach. And it's really hard to get 10 rebounds if you're not getting a few of those, sort of chippies every game. So I only got him with 4 double doubles.
Let's move to Tyrese Proctor 3s per game. And this is 3s made per game. This has been a little bit of a bugaboo where I think we've thought in prior years that Tyrese Proctor was going to become more of a big time 3-point threat. That hasn't happened yet. And I'm putting this category in the hopes that it comes to fruition finally. So I've got Proctor at 3 3-pointers per game this season. That's 2, excuse me. I didn't say 3. I said 2. 2 3-pointers made per game this season. I believe last year he was at 1.8.
Yeah, he was at 1.8. I've got him a little higher than that. I got him at 2.3.
And Donald,
I went with 1.8.
You think that the performance is just going to be like last year? We're not going to see the improvement. Although there's different ways to interpret.
No, I think the idea is that he doesn't have the pressure to shoot as much because we have so many shooters. So he may not take as many jumpers.
So just be clear, I've got the high number on this one, right?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, of every category, this is the one I'm going to win. More than I'm certain I'm going to win. If I have the high number, I'm certain I'm going to win this one because Tyrese Proctor, as we saw yesterday in the Arizona State game, is playing on the wing more. He's playing off the ball more. Duke is trying to get him to shoot more threes. You guys are fools. I'm winning this one going away.
But what he also did, Jason, is he drove the lane a lot, and he also got a lot of points off of the transition from turnover. So I think in those cases, yeah. So way however he gets his points, I think we'll be happy.
Yes.
How many times is Caleb Foster going to lead the team in scoring this season, Jason?
6, baby. I got 6.
Ooh.
I like it. Donald?
I went with 2.
Whoa, how come?
That's a low number. That is a low number, Donald.
Not necessarily, because again, I think I'm expecting 5 guys to lead this team in scoring, and I think a lot of guys are going to be close to each other, right? Like, so I think that Caleb will get close on a lot of occasions, but he may not be the top scorer, but twice.
I was more in Jason's realm. I picked 7 times this season, and this also is a function of how many games is Duke going to play in this year, which is something that is a hard thing to predict. But
40.
I've got Caleb.
40.
40.
Donald, what's Con Knippel's 3-point percentage going to be this year?
This is hard to is kind of hard because of how many that I think he will take. I went with 43.3%.
That's a big number for a college basketball
player.
I
think he's going to be up there. So
I went with 41.2%, and I thought that I was being bold. I also predicted him to lead the team in 3-point field goal percentage. So I sort of like committed to it has to be at least 40 in that realm because someone's going to do it. Jason, what did you have?
I think Donald is low. I went 44.2. Con Knippel is a great shooter.
I hope one of you guys is right and I'm wrong about this. How many minutes per game is Isaiah Evans going to play this year, Jason?
So last year, Sean Stewart played 8.3 minutes per game. TJ Power played 7 minutes per game. I think Isaiah Evans will be right in the middle of those 2. I've got him at 8 minutes per game. And man, I've got him if there's ever been a stat that I hope I lose, I hope I am way under on that.
So I was a little bit more bullish on this. I had him at 12 because I think there are opportunities. I just don't know where they're coming from. So Donald,
I went with 7, and I don't think it's because I'm down on the kid. I just think there are only 200 minutes to divide here. I think initially he's going to get the low end of those minutes, and that'll hurt him as you get into the year when that roster, or at least that rotation, gets more structured in the 6 to 7 to 8 range.
By the way, I do think he will play in more games than Stewart and Power did a year ago, which is one of the reasons his number may not be as high. Like, he won't only. It's not like we're saying he's going to play only in blowouts or non-competitive games. In a 5-point game, I won't be surprised if he's getting a couple minutes, and that's one of the reasons why I've sort of got a low number on him.
I'm gonna somewhat incite the question a little bit with Duke beat Arizona State. Like, Duke doubled up Arizona State last night. Arizona State, I don't believe, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. Arizona State's not supposed to be a bad team this year.
No, absolutely not.
Arizona State's supposed to be like pretty good. And Duke doubled them up. It was in Cameron. It was early in the season, blah, blah, blah. But like, and we'll get to it in a second, but like, how many close games is Duke going to be in this season if they're doing that to teams this early in the season?
None.
I don't know.
Yeah, I hope none. It'll be a 40 blowouts.
Although I'll tell you something, Sam. Again, the point I was making a moment ago, if Duke's winning a lot of games by 20 points, that could be bad for you in terms of Isaiah Evans' minutes, because maybe he doesn't play much early and then he gets in the final, 3 or 4 minutes toward the end. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get 12 minutes playing in games like that. Donald, how many games is Malik Brown going to start this year?
I have Malik Brown starting 2 games. I think he's going to be a solid, 6th, 7th guy off the bench, or 6th, 7th man. But I think Malawach and Flagg are going to be pretty established at the front.
Just trying to take a stab at who I think is sort of easiest to plug in to the starting lineup as a John Shire wants to make it like feels like someone needs to go to the bench and who's it going to be here? And I was thinking that it's Malik Brown, which is why I put him in this category as opposed to anybody else. Jason, so I'm taking it for 3 starts. Jason, how many do you have? And not as a formal category, but who do you think is Duke's most frequent player coming off the bench this year?
You mean in terms of moving from the bench to starter?
Moving from the bench to the starting rotation.
I think it's Sion James. Just because he provides some real versatility that I think the other guys maybe don't provide, and I think he's just a hair ahead of Malik Brown in the rotation. I have Malik Brown also starting 2 games this year, and I think it's probably not that I'm expecting injury, but I think it's probably an injury thing that gets him in the lineup a couple times. If there are no injuries, he's starting 0 games, in my opinion.
Let's talk about Sion James then for a second here. He's also a player, obviously, as Jason noted, who is going to play a significant role, most likely off the bench this season for Duke. So I wanted us to guess how many minutes Sion James is going to contribute per game to the team this season. I went with a very specific number just because it's fun to do so. I went with 24.6 minutes per game. Jason, what do you have?
I also went specific, just stabbing around. I went 19.7. And part of that is because I think that when Duke has a big lead, I'm not sure they'll need Sion to be in the game because he's such an experienced player.
Donald?
I went with 17 minutes a game. And I think, again, 200 minutes has got to be divided certain ways. And I think the more that you keep the starters in, the less opportunity a Sion James, who doesn't start, is able to be in the game.
We're coming up on Donald's favorite category, so I'm going to let him pick it first. How many times is Duke going to score 100 points this season, knowing that in its exhibition game against Arizona State, it scored 100 points?
10.
Easily.
No, not
easily
10.
Scored
Not
100
10.
points, by the way.
Easily, yes, easily.
Well, we scored. So no, I did not say 10. I was just joking with that. I have to say that every year because of the year, the Zion year, when I actually predicted 10 and we got 2. But I am going to go with 3. I think there are going to be some games where we kind of throttle back. But I also think there is weird. The one thing about this category is I think that this team is not going to have a lot of garbage time. It's not going to have times where like John Shire just kind of says, "Hey, hold the ball for 30 seconds and maybe take a layup, if not do a shot clock violation." He's going to have a lot of times where these guys are going to come in and want to show that they deserve more minutes on the floor. So I think they're going to be, quote, competitive minutes for the majority of each of these games.
So I also went with 3. And even though I sort of hate it when we have a tie, I'm not changing that number. I picked 3 for a couple of different reasons. One is I looked, and there are 3 games this year where Duke plays teams that are ranked 250th or lower in Ken Pomeroy's initial projections. Now, I'm not saying Duke's going to score 100 points in every one of those games, but I think those are 3 pretty likely spots. But the other reason I think we're going to get to 100, and 3 is a lot, by the way. The other reason I think we'll get there a bunch this year is that the bench is ridiculously good. And it's ridiculously good with offensive players. So when John Shire's trying to get extra minutes late in the game, in a game that you're winning pretty big, and he's given those minutes to Isaiah Evans and Darren Harris are extremely likely to go off for 12 points in a minute and a half. I mean, those guys are just like offensive machines when they are on. And so I think that, usually you go to the bench and it's a little more sloppy and it's not as, scoring becomes more difficult. The opposite almost happens when you put in Duke's bench guys.
Do you have
3?
3, and I've got 2. So, and I'm usually the most pessimistic on this category. I think I got this right last year by picking 1, and it was 0. So I know very little, but I do know this one. So we'll see how that goes. We're also going to guess total points for the walk-ons. I think this is my favorite category because
can I ask clarification? Where are we treating Sheffield and Begovic?
We're not. Last year we just treated Borden and Hubbard because Begovic was a scholarship player.
Yeah, this is just Borden and Hubbard.
Okay.
Spencer Hubbard, who has established himself, I would at this point, relative to this category, I would say that Spencer Hubbard has established himself as a scorer in this category. So I'm going to kick things off here, and I'm going with 9 points this year from Spencer Hubbard. I don't think maybe Borden will get fouled or something, but I've got Spencer Hubbard dialed in here. Jason, what do you have?
I had 10 points, and I think it's like 8 from Spencer Hubbard and 2 from Stanley Borden. Stanley Borden's going to get a bucket. And this Duke team is going to blow a lot of teams out, so there'll be more opportunities.
Donald?
I have 14. And I think it's because we'll have a lot of opportunities. And the thing about it is, guess who scored in both of the exhibition games?
Spencer
Hubbard.
Yeah.
Stanley Borden also scored in the first one against Lincoln. So again, I looked at that and extrapolated and said, hey, if they get in, it seems like at least they're going to give a play to Spencer Hubbard every time he's in the game. I think he gets enough where he gets 14 points.
So how many players are going to log over 300 minutes for Duke this season?
So last year there were 7. Sean Stewart and Jalen Blakes came up just a little bit short. Like 15, 25 minutes short, each of them.
This was recall last year when we talked about this, we said that this was sort of like the year we're going to figure out whether John Shire is really the Coach K disciple when it comes to bench shortening. Continue.
I'm going to have a bigger number than 7, and it's because I think there will be more blowouts this year and more opportunities to play guys off the bench. So I'm going to say 9.
Freak it. Donald?
I also went with 9.
I went with 8 just because I think that I'm feeling a little of the pull from last year, but I see where you guys are coming from. Donald, what is Duke's KenPom rating on the defensive side of the ball going to be on Selection Sunday?
I'm being ambitious with this number, and at the same time, it might be a little low. I'm going 3.
I like it.
I also have 3.
Jason threw up his hands and went 3. I'm going with 6 just to be pessimistic for the sake of argument. I had it written down. I think preseason Duke is like 2nd or 3rd in defensive rating at KenPom, which obviously means nothing, but here we are. Also needed to shout out the Wayback Machine, which I think was down for legal reasons at some point in the last couple of weeks, but is back up now, and which I rely on for this specific category. So I don't know what this makes me politically, but I'm pro the Internet Archive. That's my official stance. That's the strongest political statement I'm going to make today, is that I'm pro the Internet Archive. All right. How many games is Duke going to win on the road this season? If I counted this correctly, Duke plays 11 road games this year. And this is one of those categories that I think is very easy for all of us to over-predict every year when we do this, which is why I went with 7 road wins for Duke. Jason?
Yeah, I don't know. I think every year I feel this way. This is a really good Duke team. God, always. 9. I got 9.
Which is a lot. Like
it's a lot. If Duke wins 9 road games this year, this is a really good team.
Really good team. Donald?
I went right in between you guys with 8.
But we're in the right range. How many ACC teams are going to make the tournament this year, Jason? And this is not a Duke category. This is this is one of those fraught where are we in college basketball questions. How many ACC teams are making the tournament?
The ACC is back, baby. Not really. I got them at 7.
Donald?
I'm a little lower. I got him at 5.
Woo.
I think the ACC is back. I'm taking 8 ACC teams in the tournament this year. I don't know how. I
hope you both are right, for the record. I just don't trust the selection committee. That's all.
We're going back to Duke for a category. How many 10-5-5 games are we going to see this season from Duke? And I would also like you to predict, not because it's in the category, but I would like you to tell me who has the most of them this season. Jason, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so I get to go first. This is my category. This is officially called a Wendell Moore. If you get a 10-5-5, then you've done a Wendell Moore. I'm gonna. By the way, I want to clarify. Blocks would count, correct?
Yes.
You have to have 10 points.
You have to have 10 points, but it's 5 rebounds,
else.
steals, assists, blocks, anything like that.
Not turnovers and not personal fouls.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say there will be 9 games where someone has a 10-5-5, and Cooper
Flagg is going to lead the team in that.
Cooper Flagg.
Who do you think is going to be second in that?
Probably Con Knipple.
Okay, Donald. How many 10-5-5 games is Duke going to have this season?
Let me take that back.
I say
I'm going to say that that Caleb Foster will be second. Not that it matters, but that's
All right, Donald.
So I went with 5 because I think there are going to be a ton of games where guys get close, but maybe miss in one category or maybe have 9 points. As in the case of Kama Malawach, right? The other day, I think he had 9 points and 12 rebounds and I think 3 blocks or something like that. So they'll get close, but no cigar. I do think Kanipo will lead this category for Duke.
That's where I was going with who's gonna actually do this, and I see it being Cooper Flagg and Concanepal, with Malawach having the potential to do it. I went with 6 times that Duke is going to have a 10-5-5 game. Final category, the category that we like to round it out with and sort of summarizes the preview for us. How many games is Duke going to win this season? I'm usually the pessimist on this category, so I will go first so that the numbers are increasing. I think Duke will win 31 games this season. John Shire's won 27 games in each of his first 2 seasons at Duke, and while I would love to say that he's going to win, 37 this year on his way to various accolades and large trophies, I need to see it to believe it, so I'm going with 31. Jason, how many games is Duke winning this year?
36. That's a big number.
It's a big number.
But if I'm right on road, if we only have 2 road losses, actually I should probably say like 37, maybe. 36.
Donald.
Do you guys remember what the record was in 2001? My favorite team? It was 36-4. I'm going with 36 as well.
Oh. Every year I admire you guys for your fortitude in guessing this category, and I also enjoy the high likelihood that I'm always going to be right here. So
It's a category that if we win, I'm happy, and if I lose this category, it's because we didn't win the national championship, and I'm upset anyway. So got to go with my emotions.
You're one of those guys that gambles with your heart.
Aim small, miss small. That's how you do it. So
that's right. All right, this is good. And I had one bonus category last year. The category, if you recall, was on what date I was going to turn the heat on for the first time, and in the fashion of the bonus category is something that I can have a direct impact on. The question this year in the bonus category is, how many times will I appear on the DBR podcast this season, including our end of season a recap of the stats game.
Does this episode count? Does this episode count
in my guess?
I would say no.
No, I would say no. I don't think it does. I think conceptually it does not count.
And honestly, I think the stats game review doesn't count either, because you're reviewing all of the season. I think it goes up until the recap of the last game of the season.
Yeah, it's a during the season stat
recap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sam, you must go first on this category.
Yes. I am guessing 3 appearances on the podcast this year.
I also guessed 3. So,
Jason,
you're going to fall in love with this team, Sam. 5.
I hope you're right.
There are going to be games. There are going to be games you're going to be like, guys, we got to get on and talk about this.
What are we doing?
Incredible.
We'll have a good indicator on this early in the season if I have to appear after either the Arizona or the Kansas games, because they're I feel like those are the ones where we could be like, oh my God.
Kentucky, dude. Kentucky
too. But it's the going out west thing that I get really jazzed about. And I haven't listened recently, so I don't know. Are either of you attending the games out west in a few weeks?
I am trying. I have a ticket to Vegas. I have a hotel for Vegas. I do not yet have my flight, and I'm trying to figure that out with Thanksgiving. So the short answer is most likely I will be in Vegas.
I was thrilled when Duke scheduled the home and home with Arizona. I thought for sure. I have a friend who's in Arizona, in Tucson, and I was like, "This is great. I'm going to be able to go." I just
couldn't make that one work.
And my brother's getting married that weekend, so
I just couldn't make that work. So I think the Thursday they moved it to Friday, and in most worlds you're like, "Yo, that's even better," because I can just go to Tucson and then maybe make the drive up to Vegas in time for the game on Tuesday. But with Thanksgiving, like that's the one week where everything work related is like, ha, 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 gonna get you. So yeah, couldn't make that, but I'm, most likely gonna make Vegas work.
West Coast Duke fans, you better show up for those games.
I would have been in Vegas for sure, but Thanksgiving, like it's the day before Thanksgiving. It's just like
2 days before, yeah.
Yeah, well, same diff as far as I'm family. There's just I can't pull it off. I can't. I'm doing the Champions Classic here in Atlanta instead.
Yeah, well, that's convenient for you at least.
Yes.
So I look forward to your report from that, and I'm trying to. I know I'm going to get a ticket to the Boston College game. I'm going to try to get down to New York for the MSG game,
Illinois game
against Illinois in February, and we'll see what else sort of pops up on the schedule. I didn't think I was going to the Duke UNC football game until like a week before, and it was a great time. We could just recap that again if you guys wanted to really get hyped. But
hey guys, before we go, I got a quick trivia question for you all. So Duke just beat a power conference team. I know it was an exhibition. They beat him by more than 50 points. Do you know the last time the Duke beat a power conference team by 50 plus points?
By 50 plus points?
This is a great question. Can I get one clarification?
Sure.
Was it in conference play or was it not in conference play?
It was an ACC conference game. Very well done, sir.
Ooh. Well, I didn't tell you which way I was leaning before you gave me the answer, so I'm not sure if it was well done. But if it was in conference play, it wasn't that awesome Maryland game that I attended as a student, because I don't think we won that game by 50 points.
No, it's more recent than that.
It's more recent than that.
I think I know what it is. Is it that Georgia Tech game a couple years ago down in Atlanta?
Wait, I'm not sure which one you're talking about. There was
one. I think it was 2 years ago.
Okay, no. So you're just off. In 2023, we beat Georgia Tech by 43 points.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
86 to 43, but it was a game against Georgia Tech in January of 2016. January of 2016, we beat Georgia Tech 110 to 57. That was Luke Kennard, Matt Jones, and Frank Jackson each had 4 3-pointers in that game. Jason Tatum went 1 of 7 from 3, but he led the team in scoring because he went 7 of 8 from 2. But we had like 8 guys in double
January
figures.
of 16. Jason Tatum wasn't on the team in January of 16.
He was.
I thought Brandon Ingram was on the team in January of 16. I thought Jason Tatum was 17.
Wait, maybe I have the year wrong. Hold on.
Yeah, that's true, because 2017 was
Tatum
and Giles.
I've lost my ability to tell you all the Duke years and like all the players who were on the roster every year. I used to be really good at this. And the last few years, somehow, like in the time that we've been doing the show, I've gotten worse at this game. And I think it's more a function of player turnover, because I'm like, which years was Luke Kennard on the team? Which years was Frank Jackson on the team? Like it's tough, but I do remember who like the best players were. So I know 2016 was the Brandon Ingram year. And I know that 2017 was the Jason Tatum year.
Hang on, I'm looking because it was January.
It was January 4th, 2017. So yes, it was the Tatum.
Oh, it was 2017, not 20. You know what? I was looking at games earlier. That it's when it turned over from 16 to 7. My bad.
Yeah,
January 4th, 2017.
It throws you off that way.
Yeah,
2017. All right. So hopefully they'll do it in the regular season this year.
Yeah.
No. So for some reason, not playing against Arizona State in October counts as scoring 50 points against a power conference game. I think I continue to maintain that this is a silly endeavor. It's the regular season. We're here. Duke hosts Maine in 1 week from today?
Yep, exactly.
A week from today. Yep.
The Cooper Flagg game, but not being played in Maine, unfortunately for me.
Oh yeah, you could have gone. That would have been awesome.
Would have been great. I missed it last year. They went up to his high school went up to Maine last year to play a few games over a weekend, but I wasn't able to make it. I had it on my calendar and wasn't able to make it because it was like after the whole, he had already committed and it was the big phenomenon and everything. But couldn't make it over there for that, unfortunately. Thank you guys for having me back on today. This was a lot of fun.
Sam, thank you for appearing. And as we said at the beginning, you are welcome anytime you want, up to 5 times.
No, I'll go over if I feel compelled. Don't limit me.
Damn straight, man. We'd love to have it. All right. With that, we're going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of the DBR, the Duke Basketball Roundup. Sam Klein, thank you so much. Donald Wine, appreciate you being here. I don't even remember, was I the host at the beginning? I think I was. Yeah. So I should be signing
You were.
out. Yes. Okay.
You were.
Order has been restored. He's Donald. He's Sam. I'm Jason. They are Duke. And this is the Duke Band playing you out and taking you home. Did I tell you I was writing an article for CNN Travel? My article got published today. Yeah, I published a article for CNN.com Travel. My first time as a travel writer. I mean, I've written tons of stuff in my career, but I'm finally a travel writer. I really want to be a travel writer because I can travel and
travel and work.
Yeah, and maybe like write it off a little bit or something like that. Not yet.
Yeah.
Like while I'm still employed by CNN, I'm not allowed to do that. But when I quit CNN, I could, in theory, travel and write it off. So I wanted to become a travel writer. So I spoke to CNN.com and they said, yeah, sure. We'll take, you're an established writer. We'll take what you want to write. So I wrote an article about Antarctica, about my trip to Antarctica earlier this year. Yeah.
Nice.
Not only am I a published travel writer now, I'm also a published photographer because they used all my photos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jason Evans.
Yes. It's a really good piece because it's about how travel to Antarctica has become really luxurious. Like my cruise was unbelievable, but it's also got a lot of environmental stuff in there about like, is it harming that part of the planet? So anyway, check it out, man. CNN.com, Antarctica.